When I got through the institute exam, this was 2000, I was already working as an assistant in the industry, Bombay film industry. I did have this question because I was already working, I was getting enough amount of experience that that one normally requires. I was assisting a ex-student from FTI. His name was Pankaj Advani. He just said one thing to me. A film school will help you find yourself. It will give you an opportunity to explore what interests you, and you can get to experiment with things and find out eventually what you want to do eventually for the rest of your life. That made sense to me. So I joined up. I mean, one can always get experience working outside in the industry, but I think that will get a little limited because you'll be working with someone, you'll get used to their way of working. And if you are more interested, more keen in trying to understand, okay, what do I want to do? Maybe I want to do documentaries, maybe I want to do fictions, maybe I want to do whatever, series. But I will not know that unless and until I spend some time knowing it myself. It was fun. There were a lot of heartbreaks. But that space helped me find the answers to all the questions that I had. It at least, even though they were not finite answers, they at least helped me look in a certain direction in which I hope to, find my answers. They were fun times. I was like we were a bunch of some 65, 67 students, all equally passionate about cinema. So we used to talk films pretty much all the time. It was kind of like an obsession. I think the time that I spent, whatever, it was supposed to be 3 years, it got extended to 4.5 or something. It's still paying off for me. Till date, 20 years later, it's still paying off. Okay, subconsciously I was always interested in the visual medium. Subconsciously, because overtly I was trying to do my bachelor's in commerce maths and I was doing my CA articleship. But there was something that I felt like, hey, this fascinates me. Something else. I just didn't know what it was. But it had to do with the film medium. I didn't know whether it was cinematography or sound or editing or direction or anything. I didn't know what it was. So I ended up having to work with someone. I got this opportunity to work with someone who was writing his own script, who was shooting it with a crew, and of course who was editing it himself. Small 10-minute shots. And I got to be a part of this entire process. So I could see each and everything that was happening, which goes into the making of any film or finished product. And I found editing the most exciting aspect of it, because that was one stage where you could just change the entire narrative. You could have gone and spent 3 hours trying to light up for a shot to get that perfect shot, and in the editing table, if that shot didn't make sense, you just could throw it. And it's the same guy who spent 3 hours on shoot getting that shot who's deciding it. So that was a new thing for me, and I was very excited with that process, and I said, hey, I want to know more about this. So in a way, that whole assisting in my first job helped me understand more in terms of what I wanted to do. I mean, I was not doing anything specific. I was doing basically everything. I was probably a third assistant in charge of the production designer of a set. I was helping out in the post. I was sitting during the edit. So multiple different things I was doing. See, it's not possible for me to dissect it out as to very clearly, okay, this is what I did, this is what somebody else did, something like that. End of the day, it's all a cohesive unit. It has to stand up as one single unit. Otherwise, so I don't know. I mean, I won't be able to dissect in that sense. Again, the genesis of this is my time spent in FTI, where one is used to sitting with friends, and you have a group of one director, one cinematographer, one sound guy, one editing guy. So you all sit together and you figure out what you want to do for your dialogue exercise, your mise-en-scene, your sound, your music exercise, video exercise, or your final diploma film. So you end up sitting up and discussing and jamming in terms of ideas, and you end up contributing at a script level. And then eventually you do whatever you do while shooting it. Nothing ever goes according to plan, so you improvise a little bit. On edit again, you improvise a little more, and then the final film is in the same spirit of what the script is, but it's a different product. I'm just doing the same thing outside in the real world, working as a professional. So if I'm coming onto a project at the scripting stage, then yes, I give my feedback on the script. Eventually, at the end of it, I do play with sounds, I do play with a bit of music here and there on my edit space. So it could give like a hint to the sound guy in terms of the tonality of the sound to be used that I'm thinking of, tonality of the music for the music guy as a cue, or maybe begin from this point. It's more than, and then you get into a discussion, then you get into a dialogue, you get into a conversation. Maybe the sound guy says, no, don't use this particular thing. Maybe we should use something else. And he tries something else and he contributes something else. I mean, every single stage is a conversation point. It's a discussion point towards an end. Well, me and Kamal go back to the film shoot, same batch. We were literally neighbors. We were not in the same group making the films, but I always admired what he was doing with his dialogue exercise and his diploma film. And of course, we used to talk cinema, we used to discuss about the rest of the things in general also. And I think at some level, we kind of both understood that we were both looking at a lot of things in a similar way, a lot of things in life. And it was a natural progression from there that, hey, we should work together in the real world. We tried once for his ID, but didn't work out because of scheduling conflicts with me. And I of course, I do regret it, but it was shaped out wonderfully by Ajit. And then Pada was another opportunity that, it was just a phone call from him saying, hey, listen, I'm doing a film, what are you doing? I said, hey, please pencil me in, I'll figure out time, schedule, whatever it has to be, just tell me in advance, I'll figure it out. And literally that's how it happened. Like, they actually started shooting and I was finishing some film of mine. I finished that and I came in 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the shoot. And he didn't tell me the entire story, or rather, he told me about the story. He sent me a script, or early draft, but he didn't tell me that it's a real thing. This I got to know a little later while I was working on it, is when I got to know that, oh, this is a real thing that has happened. But I consciously did not Google it. I said, let me not get into the real world. Let me see what is the world that Kamal and his crew are trying to create. And then just worked instinctively, worked my way around it. And he saw the first cut, he really loved it. And then, of course, back and forth, a little feedback here and there, and we showed it to some friends. They also had some feedbacks to give. The normal process of filmmaking. But it was very, I could pitch a lot more ideas to him. I could literally execute and show it to him, and then, it worked out much better, it was wonderful for me as an experience. There are lots of things. I won't say a full film would inspire me. Maybe there was one scene that I find very interesting. So I would try and find out more. I would try and understand more how something is constructed. By and large, in terms of filmmakers, I like people who look at life in a very poetic manner. Like, say, a Kubrick or a Kieslowski or an Antonioni. These are the classic masters. But there is something in the way they look at the same image, or how they tell their story, which is not really in a straight line. It is never in a straight line. I find that fascinating. But I don't think life is a straight line. Like, nothing interesting can be told in a straight line. That's very cut to cut. I look for visual elements. For me, I will go back to the classical understanding of cinema, which is primarily visual medium, right? It goes a step beyond radio. So I look for ways where I can take out dialogues and still be able to communicate as effectively. This is something that probably I strive in almost everything that I do. If there is a better way than what is written to communicate the same thing, of course I can't change the plot, I can't change the narrative in that sense, but the way it's being told, I can definitely contribute in. It's something that evolves. Okay, the idea need not be the same for my A film versus B film versus XYZ film. Each one has a life of its own, is the way I look at it. My approach to each one changes depending on the subject and the treatment. And also, what is the era in which it's based, whether it's what kind of a narrative it is. It's just a question of tinkering about. See, it's a process, right? The director has an idea which he's starting off with, the entire things. Now, if I feel like, hey, maybe this idea can be embellished a little better in a certain manner, then I try to pitch that idea. Now, the idea here is that both of us be comfortable with the way we are moving. That's it. That's the only thing. So it's also a question of me convincing the director, or the director convincing me, or both of us agreeing and then saying, hey, listen, you have some good pieces, I have some good pieces, let's smash them together and see where we go. So it's a collaborative process. I mean, even though I'm sitting in a room and cutting it, but it's still collaborative. I work with A director, I work with B director, it's going to be an entirely different experience. It will be an entirely different approach for me to the same project, to the same views, because it's a different person who is involved. That person has been spending probably last 4 years or 5 years of his life, his or her life, planning something. So they've gone ahead and they're shooting something and, making it come alive, what they've been planning or thinking about or dreaming about. So I have a responsibility on that aspect also, that, I shouldn't come in and take it into a different zone unless that person is happy with it. Bottom line, baseline. So collaboration, everybody being on the happy zone is what the basic point is. In terms of Pada, well, we both knew each other personally before we worked on the film. So we were both comfortable with the fact. I think Kamal was happy and he was settled in the fact that I'm not going to push the film in a different direction. He was happy, he was confident enough, because he never came and peeked over my shoulder. He never came and said, hey, what are you doing? Can you show me something? Right? He saw my first cut. He was happy with it. He was quite excited with it, because then the possibilities of where it can go, he started seeing it more come to reality. And then of course we worked ahead and ahead on that. So I guess for me, trying to decide whether I want to do a project or not is heavily based on how my discussions with the director goes. Like if I'm reading the script, we're both looking at this, those are written words on a paper. But the way I look at it might differ drastically from the way, say, you're looking at it. So the idea is to understand, hey, can we bring it closer? If we can, awesome. We'll both go ahead and we'll do stuff which is good together. If it seems like, no, I'm going in this direction about it and he's going in somewhere else and there's no way to come to a common point or a common direction, then it'll be a disaster. As in working wise, it'll be a disaster. I'm sure the film will work. It's a lovely space. Every institute has a different vibe. I've just been to film institutes in that sense. This has a different one. I mean, I can't equate it with either FTI or SRFTI. I cannot answer it in literal terms. I will not be able to, because I've not explored that much. But it definitely has its own vibe. There's a different energy here which I don't think is there in either SRFTI or FTI.